Okie dokie. Oops, hold on. Let me just make sure I know what's going on here. Alright, that should set me up. And then I'm going to get playing on the Kerbal Space Program. Now I forgot my map. So in this case, there's actually two graphical representations of my inputs that you can see, as well as the thrusters. However, this game is not designed for this kind of play, so you can't sit inside of a cockpit view or get an appropriate gameplay view. But on the bottom left hand of the screen, you can see the in-game graphical representation of my input. So you can see the controls responding to my joystick movements. And then in the bottom right hand of the screen, I have my two webcam images of my game controller. And on the bottom, you can see the bottom of my game controller. And on the above that, you can see the top. So for forward thrust, you can see I pulled this left trigger, and I'm a little bit goofed up by I play both sometimes inverted and non-inverted. In this case, I'm up is up and down is down. On the bottom right stick is my roll control. The benefit of separating those two so that the forward and back only is forward and back, and the roll is only the roll, is that because these joysticks are new for me, I don't have to be quite so coordinated, and I can still have easy input with them. So if I pull the forward and back stick to one side or the other a little bit, it doesn't end up making any difference. It will only go forward and back, so if I miss a little bit, I don't really have to be punished for it. On the top of the game controller on my right side is how I look around, so I can rotate the ship up and down and left and right. And then I can also choose to rotate to accelerate left and right, and up and down. And again, you can see all of these controls being also represented in the in-game monitor down below, the docking input representation. So Kerbal Space Program is intended to be a realistic physics simulation of actual parts that NASA has and it has used before in various vehicles that they've built. So these thrusters are actually supposed to have the same amount of thrust output as real RCS thrusters that NASA has used on spacecraft. And the monopropellant in the upper right-hand corner is the actual fuel that is powering these thrusters, and you can see that it should be running out in a realistic amount of time. And this craft that I've put together in Kerbal Space Program is basically a fuel tank with some thrusters in it, like here. So it is actually like a little drone. It's a realistic representation of a drone that you could slap together with parts that NASA did use in their vehicles. So the parts you see in front of you that are all thrown together into a little racing course, that's just how I could get a racing course in Kerbal Space Program. And it lets you do slow maneuvering around some kind of object. In order to do this on the surface of the Earth, all you have to do is Alt F12 and hack gravity to 0. And then you can play like you're in space, but you're just at the launch pad here at the Space Center. So I did have a racing course mapped out here, but I forget what it was. I would have to watch the video and then figure it out. And I'm not trying to do that right now. I'm just trying to... My goal for this video is that the viewer can watch my joystick inputs and then see them represented in the actual output from the vehicle. So it's nice that there's the thrusters. And then you can see the joystick move and you can see the thruster fire. And then additionally, luckily, Kerbal Space Program allows you to see like a percent of input on the bottom left there. So you can see I'm just freely rotating here, but I might as well show this additional feature. I'm going to have to use the mouse, and it's called SAS. So if I toggle SAS, now you see that the vehicle tries to self-stabilize. So it won't stabilize my momentum to go places, but it will stabilize the rotation. So then if I point down, now it's going to automatically try to let me balance out there, but it still consumes fuel. So, and I don't really think that way. I like to float freely and then just try to drive slow. It is a little bit more clumsy, but once you get having an objective, like if I'm going to go fly through this hole over there, it does kind of rotate around a little bit, but it's perfectly manageable. As long as you're not moving too quickly and you have the familiarity with the control and the resulting output, then you won't get lost just because the screen is kind of moving around a little bit extra. And again, the objective of the video is that the viewer can watch the joystick inputs and see the resulting output. And the overall objective of the video is to demonstrate how a 4-joystick game controller is easy to use and allows for realistic thrust physics, 6-axis space gaming, basically. It lets you play a space simulator in an easy way, an intuitive way. Your brain doesn't get confused as easily as if you're just trying to use a random set of buttons. It already should be very familiar for many players because a lot of the controls are basically the same as every other game. There's just a few minor changes and a few minor additions. So I would argue that this is a sensible way to popularize an entire category of games which otherwise does not currently have any real top game representations. So the first-person shooter category is well represented in many games. Aircraft simulators that require fewer controls to really work well, those are well represented. But space simulators either don't simulate realistic control inputs because nobody's quite sure how to make the controls easy for players, or they are not popular and most people wouldn't even know about them. And I would argue that even though this game here does exist and is popular, most people would not consider this a navigational challenge type of game. They would just say, yeah, the thrusters are fun, but you know, the main thing that you would try to do with them is maybe do a bit of docking. And you wouldn't particularly try to use the game as a way to improve navigational skill in the same way that maybe a drone racing pilot would try to improve their navigational skill as. So this is what I call the 4-joystick game controller. And it is made with Arduino. So if you search for a 4-joystick game controller Arduino, it should pop up pretty early in your searches. Alright, and I need to run the entire monopropellant. This is already kind of a long video, so hopefully my game controller made it into the webcam images, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the video.